Hello, everybody. I'm Rafe Lawson, Executive Director of the Profitability Analytics Center of Excellence. Thank you for joining us today for our next PACE webinar. For those of you who are not familiar with PACE, or the Profitability Analytics Center of Excellence, we're a nonprofit group of volunteers dedicated to helping organizations make better, more informed decisions through the use of data analytics. We do this through the use of causal models based on our profitability analytics framework. PACE is a nonprofit organization. Our membership is free. I encourage all of you on the webinar today to become a member if you haven't done so already. You can visit our website, profitability-analytics.org, and join us. So it's my pleasure today to host the webinar on Are You Driving Profitable Growth Through Mix in the Fast-Moving Consumer Goods Industry? And we have two distinguished presenters today. The first is Maciej Kurc. He's a revenue growth management expert within this FMCG and consumer packaged goods industry with over 18 years of experience. The last 4 years, he's worked as an independent advisor and the co-founder of Insightia, which helps companies by bringing experience from working with, and among others, Coca-Cola, PepsiCo, Norman Foods, and Imperial Brands. Co-presenting today is Mike Rand. He's a category and space management expert in this industry with 27 years of experience. His corporate work experience includes 10 years with Mars and 9 years with Molson Coors. And for the last 4 years, he's headed up Catman Toolkit. Love that name, Catman Toolkit, which provides category management expertise and planogram solutions to suppliers and distributors. So we are recording this session today. I'd ask you everyone attending, to remain on mute and keep your video camera off. During this webinar, if you have questions, please put them in the chat feature. We'll be taking questions and answering them at the end of the session. So having said that, Maciej and Mike, please take it away.
Good.
Okay, so let's kick off. Thank you, Ref. So good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everybody. So welcome to our mix management webinar, where we try to merge revenue growth management and category management thinking. So we are broadcasting from Stockholm, Sweden,
and Liverpool, UK.
A little bit international. So let's hope the technology is with us today. Fantastic that so many of you have signed up from all over the globe, and someone managed to join us today. And obviously this webinar is recorded, so it's possible to watch it later for those who are not able to join us. Or if you want to watch it again because you want to refresh something, or just you misunderstood or something, then of course it will be available for you. So this webinar is a follow-up to our previous webinars, where we talked about revenue growth management in general. We had such a webinar here at PACE too, and you can find it on the PACE website as well. And based on the questions and interests, we decided to do this webinar with a bit more focus on mix management. That is why also we invited Mike, who is the lifelong expert within category and space management. And mix management is a focus area for both revenue growth management and category management. And today we'll try to explore what they both have in common and how they jointly can help companies to grow profitably. Now, a small disclaimer. Most examples are related to, let's say, a typical retail or typical consumer category. However, we all know, and based on our experience, there's no typical FMCG or CPG, which is fast-moving consumer goods company or consumer packaged good company, and no typical category or no typical retail country for that matter. Each case is very specific, and we'll try to make it relevant for most of us. So what do you think, Mike?
Oh, absolutely. I'm looking forward to this. I think it's a really, really interesting topic area.
Very good.
So the reason we're so excited to talk about mix management today is that it's just such a great opportunity. And it's often really quite an overlooked opportunity. And I think because it is often so overlooked, that I think that's what makes it such a neat little opportunity for anyone with just the right set of knowledge and skills.
Yes, and it's a valuable opportunity too. So some of the organizations that we worked with have been able to add those 4 to 5% to their net sales and bottom line profits just only through simply tactical mix management.
But if you don't manage your mix, then you can easily dilute your bottom line through mix. For example, I remember taking a major retailer around one of our factories, and the factory manager made the mistake of telling one of their buyers from that retailer how much more efficient the factory could be if he was just putting large packs down the line. Now, of course, that's right. Factory efficiencies can and do improve your bottom line. It is part of the picture. But it's not a holistic perspective on profitability, and it does risk ignoring the contribution of mix. Its simplification can sometimes be good, but not always. It's not the whole commercial perspective. You can easily sleepwalk into diluting your profitability and diluting it through the mix. On that occasion, then, we decided that it might be best just to move the retailer's buying team quickly onto lunch.
Yeah, that was a good decision. So whilst with good mix management, we might be adding this mentioned 4 to 5% to our bottom line. Without it, it might be easily taking off 4 to 5%. So the gap between poor mix management and great mix management is really big.
Yeah. So this webinar is based on our extensive experience within consumer products, CPG. It's relevant, not only for fast-moving consumer goods, FMCG, and consumer packaged goods, CPG, but also for other companies and industries that make any kind of products or services for people. For example, consumer electronics or small home appliances.
And we have worked with such companies as well. Today, we share with you our practical experience and tips and examples from combined over 40 years of working with category management and revenue growth management. Those disciplines have changed and evolved over these years and will continue to evolve, and not only due to the rise of generative AI, they simply evolve, become better. However, the mix management is the heart of both. We will very shortly introduce ourselves, then we'll talk mix, and we have dedicated quarter or 15 minutes at the end to take your questions. So please write the questions in the chat and we'll take it at the end.
So first of all, then, this is what we'll cover today. Number one, the importance of mix management. We have said a little bit about that already. But then number two, closely related to that, is how mix can really drive value. Then number three, we'll talk about how category managers, revenue growth managers, and account managers can work together to positively manage mix. And then finally, number four, before we summarize, we'll talk through the key mistakes and barriers that often get in the way of great mix management.
Very good. So who are the speakers? So who are we and why you should be listening to us? Yes. So so Ralph mentioned briefly about us, but what is our experience? So what is the background for all of this that we are going to say today? So I'm Maciej. I work with the Revenue Growth Management Fund for over 18 years, and I did that with various industries within multiple product categories in various countries, basically all over the globe. Most of my experience is within the fast-moving consumer goods, as mentioned, or consumer packaged goods, as we call it. But I work with, among others, industrial products or consumer electronics, which gives me a valuable perspective on things, on business. I work as a business development director, head of revenue growth management, and I also have sales director experience, and I manage large international teams. So most of my relevant corporate experience is coming from Carlsberg, which is beer, cider, water, soft drinks. You might know Carlsberg, most of you, most likely, and Anora, which is wine and spirits company in the Nordics, actually a leading wine and spirits company in the Nordics. Just a curiosity for my life, for my experience, is that my dad had a small retail chain of few supermarkets when I was young, when I started my university. And I help him with simple things like basket analysis or simple category management during that time. So this also gave me a perspective on daily life and challenges of retailing. So in summary, I do understand retail and the opportunities and challenges of implementing revenue growth management and mix management in real life. Mike?
And hi, I'm Mike, and in one way or another, I've been working in the field of category management for over a quarter of a century. As Rafe said, I worked for Mars in the UK, and I worked for them, you know, when the discipline of category management was really just getting started in the late 1990s. So I was fortunate enough to see it develop and become well established. And I've also worked in the beer industry. I was category controller for the off-trade grocery and impulse UK for Molson Coors, who own brands such as Coors, Carling, Madri, Cobra, and Dunbar. I've had the opportunity to work on collaborative category projects with many of the key grocery retailers, and I've been privileged to lead a really strong team of category managers. I've also been lucky enough to work on great shopper research and category vision programs. So I've seen category management adapt and transform through economic cycles and market pressures. For the last 4 years, I've headed up Catman Toolkit, providing planogram solutions, as Rafe says, to suppliers and distributors.
That's good. That's enough about the marketing of ourselves. So let's talk about the topic, shall we not? So let's start with how a range or assortment of products typically comes together in a typical retail environment. How it comes together in practice, not how it should come together, but how it actually does come together.
So I hope that you kind of recognize the steps that I'm going to talk through. A good retailer will usually have a few ranging windows throughout the year, ranging or assortment. So range might be a language that we might use in Europe. I think we might use assortment language elsewhere. But a good retailer will usually have a few ranging or assortment windows throughout the year. But they'll probably only do a wholesale big change of the fixture, maybe annually. I've been closely involved in a lot of major reviews, and they are a massive undertaking with hundreds of SKUs, stock keeping units, reams of data, and affecting hundreds or thousands of stores. It's a major punctuation point in the buying team's cycle. Everything gears around week 21 or week 34 or whatever it is. Asda, who were until recently part of the Walmart Group, used to call it a cannonball because it was their one big shot at getting the fixture in store right. They've also previously called it a sauna because they wanted to make the fixture sweat. Now, retailers do like a little name for their range reviews and assortment reviews. Many of them might also call it a reset. But whatever we call it, of course, we want to choose the best-selling products. And we'll use historic sales data to do that. Now, sales data is all well and good. Well, it's essential, really. But often when you're selecting the 5th or 6th line to go into the range, you've already got some similar products. So increasingly these days, our loyalty card data shows us the incremental value of different products. So we want to choose the best sellers, but we want to choose the best sellers that drive incremental value. We want to take duplication out of the range. Now, today, there's just too much data. There's sales data, there's loyalty card data, there's panel data, there's shopper research. It's easy to get down and into the weeds. It is a complex process, and in many ways, a process without a good process. It's not something that you can easily turn into an algorithm. There is a lot of judgment involved. Now, of course, the category manager and the buyer want to create a profitable mix of products. Of course they do. And perhaps occasionally they will. But mostly that's more out of accident than design. If you think about the data sources that I've been talking about, the sales data, the loyalty card data, shopper research, the realm of the category manager is
Gracias, lo
largely
seguiré buscando.
external data. All sorts of complex data. They are rarely focused on the bottom line, on the profit line. So a mix of products comes together, it does come together. And usually it's a better assortment than beforehand. But this is my challenge. Is it actively managing the mix effect on the P&L? Let's take a moment to review what drives sales. What are the key components of net sales, the net sales driver? How do we affect the overall top line?
And here we think of a typical profit and loss or P&L or income statement in a typical FMCG manufacturing company, where you say we start with the gross sales, which is equal to list prices. Net sales is the gross sales minus all the discounts, rebates, bonuses, trade promotions, and other investments that you are making to your customers. We distinguish three broader net sales drivers, as we call it. Number one is volume, number two is price, number three is mix. So to grow your net sales, you will try to sell more kilos, liters, units. You will try to improve your net pricing per kilo, per liter, per unit. And there is this other element, which is normally trickier and more mysterious. It's the mix. The mix can be driven by relative changes in volume sales of your channels, customers, brands, and packages. So it is possible to grow the total amount of units sold, to increase net price for all individual SKUs, but still decline in absolute net sales. This can happen actually, and especially on the bottom line. It can be caused by changes of mix of channels, mix of customers, and mix of brands and products. And this is because you have different net sales per unit for different products at different channels and customers.
So Billy's asking, are we referring to the mix effect on the brand manufacturer or on the retailer or both? And I think we are referring really to all elements of mix, to both brand and to retailer, because it's important to look at these things from all of the different angles. So normally FMCG companies use mix as an explanation as to why net sales is up or down. It's typically the residual of volume effect and price effects. So such residual value is a bunch of different things, right? And it can include your innovations. Volume and price are easy to measure, but we measure the mix effect by taking account of the residual impact. And we'll go into a little bit more detail on that in a moment.
However, more and more companies try to take control of the mix and use it actively to improve net sales and profitability. So if you're looking for a concept or system for your revenue growth management or category management, here is the model that we work with. It is an extended version of what we discussed in our previous webinars. Everything starts with a great category growth vision. As manufacturers, we need to have it clear in our heads. How do we want to grow value in the key categories that we play in and want to play in? We need to have a vision on how we grow value for customers, for consumers, and obviously ourselves. Of course, the foundation for a great vision is a proper understanding of shoppers, consumer needs, and customer objectives. Then you have different levers to deliver on that category vision. You will work with assortment, you will work with price, promotion, space, layout, and trade terms as well. You will also use a combination of those, such as pack price architecture, called PPA, or price promo policies, and other combinations there exist. While tactical mix management can bring you the mentioned 4 to 5% or even more in relatively short term, the strategic mix management can deliver you much more. However, under strategic mix management, we talk about such topics as managing portfolio of your categories and brands, but also about investments into manufacturing capabilities or even M&A activities to improve your mix. In this webinar, we focus on assortment and space as some of our key and more simpler levers to deliver on the tactical mix.
So, what is mix? At a simplistic level, it might seem like mix is just the products you sell, your assortment or your range. But it is much more than that. Mix is what you get back as well as what you put in. When we get a richer understanding of mix, we understand what the mix does to profitability. Clearly, the price and promotional activity of products drives volume, revenue, and profit. And of course, all these levers drive the top and bottom lines. And of course, that all differs by brand, by pack format, by customer, and by channel. The growth and decline of your brands and trading partners all changes the mix. Now, it might seem like this mix is this big, dark, amorphous thing that we can't measure. Like it's just what you get when you put everything together. But we can measure mix. And we can measure mix and we can plan for mix. We can break out product mix effects and we can break out customer mix effects.
Yeah, and once we measure mix and we understand what drives mix, we need to develop ways to allow us to drive it through a business process. But we need to be externally facing as well as internally analytical. We always need to be able to see this through the needs of our shoppers and objectives for our customers. This might be underpinning foundation of managing mix, but where it comes together is in this great category value growth vision. A great category vision will shape all the micro decisions and it gives us principles to work by. Really understanding mix, having a mixed mindset when you are developing your category vision helps to put positive mix at the heart of your strategy.
So to bring that to life, let's take one of the first key elements in term measuring mix. This is one of the ways in which we can measure mix. These charts show how different segments make a contribution to the overall profitability. So imagine you do an overall profitability analysis on your category, for example. Then rerun that analysis, do it again, but exclude one of the segments. Take that segment out of the analysis, so not included in your data set. Now, the difference then you get to the total that you had before is the contribution that that segment makes. So you can do that again. You can do it again and again. You can do it by each segment. You can do it all by different brands, by different pack sizes. You can run it by consumers, by customers or by channel. We should know how much each segment contributes to our overall profitability. Which are the segments that push us up and which are the segments that bring us down. And we should know how different, typically most organizations have some big selling products. We should understand how those products impact our mix. And what would happen if there was a small increase or decline in their sales? How much might that impact mix? We can measure mix, and we need to, through doing these analyses, we can understand how each of those different dimensions, brands, packages, customers, can contribute. And that's how we can set strategies whilst positively managing our own mix.
Okay, so there are potentially many ways to analyze and improve mix, and there are. In this practical example from, again, a typical retail channel, we show how you can improve your mix by using a measure that we call gross profit rate of sale. I mean, this example is actually based on some of the work that we have done. So it's a real example of course, is disguised, so we can link it back to any of our customers. Many of you already use a measure called rate of sale. Sometimes it's called rotation and also has got some other names. So rate of sales means basically how much volume is being sold per distribution point, or simply an example, average volume per store per week. This measure helps you to assess performance of your products among other similar products from your own portfolio, but also among the competition. It is an important measure to see if you have potential for driving volume by changing distribution between different products, by changing listing at the customer. Obviously, This measure takes into account sellout data that is taken from directly from retailers or syndicated data sources. Selling data could also be used if this is the only thing you have for your own portfolio, if you have direct delivery model, so you can actually track data at the store level. Using this measure, you will improve your volume. However, this will not necessarily help you improve the mix. It actually can damage the mix if you're not careful. One of the best ways to improve the mix, though, is to combine this external measure with internal gross profit figures. You will combine external with internal view in one single figure. You create a measure called gross profit rate of sale. This tells you how much gross profit on average you are making per store. By using this measure, you will be able to set your distribution targets and customer lists and improve your mix. In this simple example, you will ask yourself these questions. How can we optimize gross profit and mix of our existing assortment and identify opportunities for new SKUs? Are there high gross profit rate of sale SKUs that we could increase distribution on? So in this particular example, replacing priority of 200 to 220 grams, which you see there in the bottom in red, with 350 gram, which is there on the top, will actually increase the profit of this segment by 4%, which is definitely an interesting opportunity to look into.
So that's an opportunity we want to look into. But there is a risk of such a perspective being too internal of you. Yeah, of course we want to do that. Yeah, but it needs to be married with the retailer's view. So it's helpful to make a map of your potential listing and opportunities and risks by retailer. Okay, this map that we're showing here in this table is just for it's a simplified version of what that might look like. A real map of all of your products and all of your customers is a much, much, much bigger map. But you want to when you create such a map, it gives you the opportunities to look to see whether your opportunities from a retailer's perspective map up with what you would like to achieve from your internal sales. So you might be using the more traditional rate of sale and loyalty card metrics to make this kind of map. And you might be using the gross profit rate of sale to use the kind of analysis that Maciej talked about. Do these opportunities map up? Or conversely, are they mismatched? Do you have a risk to manage? Do you have risks to listings that you're relying on to drive your mix?
So, but even if you have a well-performing product and one retailer, there could be some practical limitations to extend the listings for this product to other retailers. For example, due to pricing or discount structures, or other limitations such as specific retailer strategies for this specific category. So to make this analysis even more customer-focused is to use so-called trade margin rate of sale. It shows how much is this product making of trade margin, so the margin that customer makes, at an average store where it's distributed to. Such a dimension will help you to convince your customers to adjust the listings and distribution of your products. Luckily enough, as we see in this case, coming back to this table of Mike, I actually see that 350 is an opportunity to many of the customers. So I think we have an opportunity to increase the listings. So that's good. That's good.
That's very good.
We move on. Good. It is important to demystify mix and give some simple tools to the organization to work with. You need to start to distinguish different net sales drivers. These drivers are, as Mas mentions, is volume, pricing, various mixes that you want to split into smaller buckets, but also innovation and NPDs that normally are baked either into mixes or the base volume. So here is an example of a net sales bridge for a typical FMCG manufacturer. On the left-hand side, we have our net sales for 2024, last year. And on the right-hand side, you have breakdown for the net sales plan for 2025. So starting from the left, the bridge is divided into volume effects related to your base business, your base portfolio. There could be many volume effects, such as market development, which could drive your volume up and down, distribution gains, and volume from promo activities. And actually, you want to see all these three effects separated. So this is not part of this seminar, but you actually want to do it as well. Now, important to note that you should single out the innovations and NPDs as a separate block. Here in this chart, it comes in the end of this bridge. You want to see how much net sales is coming from new products, your innovation pipeline. You don't want to confuse the new products into follow-up on your base business or mixes. In this case, this company is bringing 1.5% of net sales with innovations. Then we have all the pricing effects. And again, here you would put the list price increases, regular discount changes, bonuses, and promo discount changes. You actually want to follow up on each of those as well. And again, this is not part of this webinar, but you want to do it as well. And then we have the mixes. In this example, we focus on mixes that come from change in importance or size between customers, sub-channels, categories, and packs.
So when we look at all of that, then what we can see is, in this example, that this company seems to be planning to maintain net sales in the next year. That's quite a bit of great work has been done to increase volumes, pricing, and new products. However, they still have work to do on the mix. But we need to understand what is driving this bridge. So we can see that customer mix is down. So we need to understand which customers and why. Is it to do with natural market trends or something to do with our trading relationships? Overall price is up. So maybe it is customer volume related. Pack mix is down. Pack mix could mean a few different things. Now, perhaps most obviously, we might want to review the sales opportunities for the more positive pack sizes. We might also need to look at the pricing differentials between them, or how our activation plans are distributed amongst our different packs.
Yeah, normally we recommend that you plan and follow up on mixes in those dimensions which I mentioned here. So you do the channel or sub-channel dimension, key customers, mixes, categories, subcategories, brand and sub-brands, and pack formats.
So many FMCG or CPG companies plan their annual budget on a stock keeping unit per customer level. But a reanalysis like this helps us to understand if this is the plan that we really want. But really important, guys, as Maciej says, we need to do this by channel, customers, brands, pack sizes. We do it in those fashions because we want the account manager responsible for any customer, then we want them to be pulling in the same direction as the brand manager responsible for the brands. And I can't emphasize this enough. When an account manager has a different idea of what to drive from a brand manager, then that is not a recipe for success. The brand teams need to understand how, where, and with what products we can drive growth through different types of customers. And the account team need to work with the brand plans that the brand team are developing, or work with the brand teams to develop the right plans for their channel. The business needs some overall strategy then, some principles to work by. And though we've shown this at an annual level, we all know that this changes in year. And that's why it's important that this is included in the monthly cycle. This should be part of your business planning process. And that's really important. It's really important to keep the brand and the sales sides of your business in synchronization.
Yes, active planning and follow-up on your net sales drivers gives you more control of your revenue growth management and category management activities, especially the activities related to improve mixes, obviously.
You know, ideally, it would be just fabulous if you could actually get to the point where your key account manager or national account manager uses a chart such as this to talk to their manager to say, this is what I've done at a specific retailer to drive pack mix through how they've prioritized that or how they've executed that. That's what it's going well when that happens. So if we know what positive mix looks like, then we need to drive it into store, and we need a plan for that. Now, so we can do this at a micro level, taking every and each opportunity to select and display products in a way that maximizes their impact. Yes. But I do think it is much more important to do it at the macro level. When you build your vision for the category, when you put together your growth drivers and your fixture of the future vision, then this is an opportunity to build space targets into the plan. To be clear about the segments and the kind of products that are going to make a lasting contribution to the category. If we get the vision right, then the micro opportunities will flow from that. The planograms shown here illustrate the kind of change that we want to drive into store if our category vision is optimized for profitable growth. If we just work at the tactical micro level, then we won't drive real change. Yes, we need to drive the right stock holding for our best sellers, but building on that, we need to promote space for the products that will develop a healthy future for the category. Space that can nudge shoppers or at least tempt shoppers with a new opportunity. Retailers are unlikely to do this themselves. Their time horizons are shorter and faster. They'll typically work at an operational level. Suppliers have to take the lead with a fixture of the future vision, a vision for the category, and how that will land in store and online. And if you have that view of what a great fixture looks like, then you can plan for it and you can measure it and you can target it.
Why we talk so much about how long time it takes to embrace mix management in again, typical consumer product organization? Because the fact is that it's a very complex journey. Many mistakes can be made and many roadblocks you can meet. And this can generate significant frustration versus the initial expectation and slow down the process. Mixed optimizations at the intersection of revenue growth management, category management, brand, and account management. And they all must work like a hand in the glove because mixes are important. Now, in general, it's true that pricing lever is the most important lever for most of us. But if you neglect mix, you may be leaving quite a significant amount of money on the table and money which is actually entitled to you. This could be especially true in cases where your categories are in decline and you have been already pulling the pricing lever for quite some time and you start to exhaust its potential. Now, over the many years we work with revenue and category management, we have seen many of the pitfalls and mistakes, but today we just want to highlight the top 5 that we see. So to start with, creating sustainable growth with mix is often simply neglected. Mix is not recognized and not actively used to drive value growth. Here we mean both strategic mix that is related to 3 to 5 years due to M&As, category, portfolio, brands, even sales channel development. And we also mean a shorter term, more tactical mix management. The proof of focus on the mix as a driver will be expressed in clearly defined and quantified specific improvements in your long-term strategies and your annual plans. If you go further, your sales and brand teams and individuals will have specific targets on improving product, pack, category mix for their customers and then brands respectively.
So to some extent, and then linked with the previous, we often find that a company's approach to RGM is very much limited to delivering volume rather than value. They might have a volume mindset. For example, companies that prioritize listings, distribution, and space based on unit or volume key performance indicators, one of the reasons for that is it's much easier to measure than value or profit. It could also be that the retailers might be interested in talking about unit or volume rotation from shelf. Another reason could be that we don't link the unit or volume sales with internal gross profitability figures. Or our category managers might be immersed in external data without a connection back to profitability. In many cases, people in our organizations that are responsible for listings, distribution targets, or space management are measured on volume rather than on profitability and profit. And people tend to try to deliver on what they are measured and bonused on.
Another frequent mistake have to do with the organization enablers that we mentioned in the previous chart. Quite often, the teams responsible for delivering revenue and category optimization simply lack capabilities, data, tools, or AI solutions to truly plan, optimize, and follow up on mix. They might be simply, as we call, unskilled. Optimizing mix can feel, for many people, quite theoretical and abstract for those that are not really savvy with this. So you need the training. You need the training for your brand, category managers, and salespeople. But critically, they need to have easy-to-use tools to plan and simulate mix improvements, and then see the results in easy-to-use reports or dashboards. Working with mixes cannot be just a boardroom exercise that is prepared by the finance magicians once a month for the vice presidents and senior directors. You need your national account managers or your key account managers to follow up on the customer activities to see if the actions improved the mix as intended.
So another common mistake is around planning and follow-up. So it might be that good mix management happens, but it's an irregular activity. When mix is not done as a part of the normal routines, but it's only done ad hoc and infrequently. Maybe your organization prepares the analysis when they have a visit from central office or headquarters, or maybe when the director overall responsible for RGM is asking for it. Maybe the mixes are checked occasionally on monthly board meeting reviews, but only if the results are not good. This is analyzing mixes as a way to explain what went wrong, instead of as an integrated process where you plan and follow up at a granular level.
Finally, a common mistake is when mix management responsibility is given to someone in a particular team or function. And typically it could be revenue growth management or finance, or there could be some other functions as well. But this becomes a silo working, as we call it. The good thing is that this creates good initial momentum at the beginning, but then very often companies fail to turning mixes focus in a truly cross-functional approach, and it must be integrated. It is actually even worse, what Mike mentioned, if sales are managing mix in one way and marketing or trade marketing teams in another way. I think our key message from today is that fully benefiting from optimizing your mixes is in a sustained way. You need different functions to embrace and support this approach together. So are you, yeah, exactly. So are you, exactly. So the question here is that if you are recognizing any of those, and potentially there is some opportunity for further growth via mix in your organizations, and we run a poll. So we would like you to ask which of those you recognize in your organization mostly. So please prioritize. You can pick all of them, but you can also pick just one. So we would be happy to get your answer. Right, Ref?
Absolutely. And while we're waiting, there is another question in the chat feature, but please make sure you answer the poll. Indicate what your challenges are that you face in your organization. But there's a question, what challenges have you identified for manufacturers to try to influence mix on shelf when they're not the category captain?
Yeah. And I think in that instance, it is more difficult. When you are the category captain, you do have a much richer conversation and an opportunity to influence what kind of price and promotional architecture there may be. What I'd suggest is, and this will differ a lot in different in different areas. So here in the UK, even if you're not the category captain, it's very likely you still have a rich category conversation with your customer. And that's actually how category captaincy often moves around between different suppliers, because there is often a conversation with more than one supplier anyway. At least the second supplier is likely to be fairly influential as well. But I'm aware that in some places that's not always the case. And so that in such circumstances, it's incumbent on people who are in the commercial positions to have some of the richness of those conversations as well, to be able to pick out the. Also, I think you need to be looking at the trends in the marketplace. So to some extent, what you might be missing then is some of the customer insight, but you might still be wanting to have a good deal of consumer insight and customer insight from picking out what is happening in the marketplace. Yeah, it just gives you a little bit less on your insight piece.
To add to this, yeah, sorry, go ahead.
Sure, please.
Yeah, to add to this, what Mike said, I completely agree, and I see it in a similar way, also based on my experience. However, actually, most of our customers are not category captains. Actually, because the category captains typically don't need our help. Well, actually, they do, but they typically don't. Yeah. We typically work with other players as well, actually. But they do have quite a lot of opportunities there, actually. Always, I would say, we always find something. But again, this is very much related to the market conditions. I mean, in some markets you can do more, in some markets you can do less, but you can always find a solution. So there's no one size fits all. But definitely this topic is relevant for category captains, but also second or third players.
Great. And at this time, we'll end the poll. And I think we can summarize it by saying, when you say these 5 typical mistakes, they all were indicated by a substantial number of companies as being mistakes that are made in their organizations. The most common one, at 50% of the respondents, was this lack of capabilities, the unskilled one, number 3. But 42% of the respondents had this silo working as well. And then the other 3 responses or mistakes had a third of the respondents indicating those were prevalent in their organizations. So again, all 5 of these typical mistakes are very prevalent in organizations that are represented here today.
Thank you.
It's good. Interesting. The skills got number 1, but that's also what we see ourselves. It's often it's back to the capabilities, data tools actually to do it, because it can be a little bit tricky with the data actually, for example, but also simply understanding how to do it. And then silo working as well. Yes, we see this as well. It's very strong among most of our customers. So. What do you think, Mike? Do you have any comments to this poll?
Yes, I mean, I think, I guess my comment is, of course, it's all of these are problems. I'm glad that people are echoing what we identified as typical problems. But actually, the good news in a way is, whilst it is a lack of capabilities and skills that's probably perhaps the biggest barrier, it is something that can be overcome. So training, development in some processes and ways of analyzing the data. These things can be sorted out.
Yeah, it looks, Mike, like there is. So maybe we'll not become unemployed. Yeah. Yeah, so
not yet.
Not yet. So we can help on that. Good. Yeah, we have to hurry up before AI takes over this. Okay, good. We go further. Good. Okay. So in a summary, we have 4 key takeaways. So if you missed most of the session or you remember nothing from what we discussed today, then please remember those four.
So number one, prioritize it. Prioritize mix management. It matters. It can be an invaluable part of the plan. If you don't prioritize it, if you don't watch your mix contribution, then you risk sleepwalking into a dilution of your profitability. Yes, drive volume, earn those factory efficiencies, but do so with your eyes open as part of an overall plan. It's not just about volume. It's not just about price. Positive mix is an invaluable part of your plan.
Secondly, be clear about and have aligned your objectives. Mix should be part of your business strategy and also your daily operations. Your objectives need to work in the context of the market. Your objectives need to appropriate to your customers, consumers, and shoppers. Your mix objectives should fit with your category growth vision and your vision for value growth, and also for your business medium-term plans.
And third, when we really have relevant positive mix objectives, then we need to manage them. We need to put them in the business plan. They will differ by brand and by channel and by customer, but build the capabilities in your organization, gain buy-in at all levels and functions, and build skills that we were just identifying as, one of the biggest challenges here. Build skills, analytical skills, and perhaps more importantly, attitudinal skills.
Good. And then finally, measure it. Manage the data and reports and follow up on your objectives. Understand the differences that have happened. Why have they occurred? Is this happening in all customers and all brands, or have the specific choice been made for good reasons? What do this variation teach us about the changes in the marketplace? What are the root causes, and what remedial actions can we take to correct the gaps?
So simply put, prioritize it. It matters a lot. Align your objectives. Get the right objectives for your market. Manage it. If mix matters, then we should put it in the plan and measure it. If it matters and it's in the plan, then we need to follow up. Mix is part of the review cycle.
Excellent. So now we reached almost the end of at least of the formal presentation. We do hope that we have inspired you and you found this examples useful and interesting. We have some small gifts for you, for those who join us and listen to us today. So if you're planning to set up, upgrade your mix management and your organization, or you simply would like to understand how well you do on the mix management, we can help you to prioritize your efforts. We offer you to carry out a free mix management diagnostic. It's an assessment of your current mix management approach. You get our diagnose, which is based on this best-in-class methodology, and then you also get concrete and specific recommendation. It is worth $5,000, but we give it free for the first 2 people who will contact me after this session. And this offer is valid 2 weeks from now. So please, the first 2 people who will contact me after this session, and you see the details here, will get this offer. And this, again, valid for 2 weeks from now.
And I have another opportunity for you. I'm offering a free trial of the planogramming software, Spanner the Space Planner. It's a great planogramming tool. It's used by some of the top suppliers to really influence retailers' fixtures. It can produce really impactful planograms to drive that store change that's so important. And though it has some really powerful analytics, it's also really easy to use. So Spanner's normally $800 per user per year, but I'm offering it free for a 4-month period. So you can contact me on LinkedIn. Now my profile is open, or you can contact me via catmantoolkit.com.
Good. So now let's go to the questions. Do we have any questions now? Any additional questions in the chat? Let's see. Ref, is there anything there?
I wonder if I can put it in verbal rather than in the chat because it would be easier.
Absolutely. Go ahead, Mons.
Okay. First, thank you so much for sharing such an insightful presentation, especially on the net sales bridge. My question to you, when the marketing team sometimes come with a new proposition on price points and proposing new SKUs to tap those price points, how would we do the test of mix and ensure that this is not going to dilute or cannibalize the other categories or other SKUs? And I know that this is a tough question. I worked in FMCG and commercial for 9 years, but maybe you had a different experience or a trick to tackle such dilemma, because normally the marketing team would come with a new proposition, say that on this price point we need to introduce this category to tap those volumes, but then it might dilute either the mix or dilute the cannibalize from other product or SKUs. Thank you, Maciej.
Shall I take it or Mike, you take it?
I'll say a couple of things, and then please add. I mean, first of all, what I would say is normally whenever any innovation is brought to the marketplace, or any new products is brought to the marketplace, it really should be mix accretive. It should positively impact your mix. Just going and just imagining going to a retailer and trying to sell them a product that doesn't positively impact the mix. It should be the focus of what innovation is to positively impact the mix. There may be some tactical reasons why you do some other things in the short term, but by and large and in general, a new positive innovation should positively impact the mix, and it's a really important part of what innovation should be targeted to achieve.
It's a very good point, and it's building on this what Mike said. It's also it's linking a little bit back to this simple tools, the simple simulation tools, well, simple or more complex depending on your environment, which can actually model that what will happen. And then, but what you need in those tools is some what we call the cross elasticities, which will tell you what happens when you change the price in this one. So obviously, when you lower the price, typically you get more volume. When you increase the price, typically you get less volume. But actually, what happens with the volume? Is it when you increase the price, where is the volume going? Is it going to your own portfolio? Is it going to the competition? The same with the lowering the price. Are you taking it from the? And the same you do. I mean, you do it across the categories as well, because if you have, depending on you, I don't know what industry you are in, but you can have some categories which are cannibalizing on each other. It could be. And you would need to have some cannibalization across elasticity simply between the categories. So that's how you do it. And then typically we do in our project, we help companies to build it like simple solutions. But of course, there are some good solutions on the market. But you will need to have these cross elasticities either among products you own, but also the competition. And then also between the categories, because it's true sometimes in many cases based on our experience, our own experience, and also our customers now. Sometimes the effect is overstated. It's not taking into account the cannibalization. So it seems like all the new innovations is on top, but then actually what you see in the P&L, it's actually maybe not coming through so much as you think. So that's the typical problem actually. Well, problem. It's a challenge. It's relatively easy to solve, actually, by the way.
Yeah.
There's one more question in the chat, but before we address that, please, before you leave, take the end of the webinar poll so we can get some feedback about how you felt about this webinar. So in the chat, there's a comment that maybe you could speak to. When I was with Kimberly-Clark Corp, we realized our approach to working with retailers to understand the retailers by their strategies rather than the traditional sales channels. This enabled us to have much more productive and effective discussions on mix and more. For example, we focused assortment discussions on what aligned with the retailer's strategies and results.
Yes, that's a very good comment. And then I think it's a good starting point. I think you understand the objectives of the customers and the strategies, because actually it's also quite maybe funny or not funny. It's like many of my customers, actually, when you ask them what are the strategies of the customers, they actually don't know. And then I say, okay, so what is it you talk about? Yeah, we talk about discounts, pricing, and listings, and we don't know what the customer strategies are actually. We don't talk about it. So then I think it's a good starting point, understanding that. And also, but linking to this bill, because in some cases you might have customers which are operating in different channels, meaning like hypermarkets, supermarkets, and discounters. So you could have one customer which operates, and it's good to understand the channels as well, of course, because there will be some things you will be doing in discounters, other things you will be doing in hypermarkets, and other things you will be doing in. And I don't know which markets you're referring to, but definitely starting with the customers, as you mentioned, is definitely a good, because it's the customers who decide really what you list or not. So you need to have that in place. Yeah. Mike, you have any comments?
Well, I think what that reminds me of is that perhaps one of the most commonly ever used charts in all of category management is the three concentric circles that overlap, not concentric circles, but three overlapping circles, which talks about the sweet spot. The sweet spot is where the three circles overlap. What is right for the shopper and consumer, what is right for the retailer, and what is right for the supplier. And I think that's this comment speaks to exactly that. When your positive mix management is working for the long term, when it's sustainable, then it hits all of those boxes. It is what is right for the customer. It's also what is right for you as a supplier, and it's stuff that your shopper's going to be attracted to.
Very
Okay, I
good.
think we've run out of time here. So, but thank you, Maciej and Mike, for this very interesting, thought-provoking discussion. I wish we could go have more time, but we don't. And I want to thank everybody for attending today. Again, be sure you take the poll and keep an eye out for our future PACE webinars. We have quite a few more planned. Check out our website to find out more, or check out our page on LinkedIn. And then sign up for our newsletter and become a member of PACE. Having said that, have a good rest of your day, everyone, and see you next time.
Okay, thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.